our areas of coverage from the time that we started up to date and look at the areas that we focus in what we do, and then the people that have worked with us over that period since we started, and finally look at some of the challenges and the recommendations that we are proposing. The SDS work was founded in PAG in 1994, and it was a strategy for holistic approach in ministry. It was in an attempt to ensure that as PAG, we reach out to people that we interact with in the communities holistically. And that is premised on the basis that just like Jesus Christ did, Jesus ministered to the total man, looking at the physical, social, economical, psychological needs, and spiritual needs of mankind. And that is found in the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 52, that declares this mandate, because it tells us that Jesus himself grew in wisdom, stature, and in favor with God and man. So all that we do under Social Services Department is to enable the church to be able to reach out to the community holistically. The areas that we have prioritized in the work in Social Development Services Department since 1994 when we started up to now, one component is emergency response, things to do with humanitarian assistance or providing relief. So most of the areas where we are intervening right now are areas that have a historical background in relation to natural calamities, man-made, or those that occur in nature, either conflicts, floods, refugee crisis, famine, people dying because of lack of food. Those are some of the conditions that have prompted us as a church to reach out. So that is one thematic area that we have done in different parts of the country. The other area is food security, and our emphasis has been on agriculture. The third is livelihood, looking at initiatives that help people to have money, dignity, and social status in the community. We have had interventions that include savings and loan associations, self-help group, where people come together, pool their resources, and meet their needs. We have had initiatives that focus on value addition, aimed at bringing more money on what you produce. And then also we have projects or initiatives that bring people together to do marketing. The other component is gender, women resilience, and land rights. So we have had projects that empower our participants to be able to appreciate aspects of gender, raising the need for man and wife, children, to work together at home, plan together, do initiatives, income generating activities, farming as a household business, and many other components, including issues of relationships, preventing gender-based violence at home, role sharing at home, helping women to have access to land, helping women to write, helping men who always own property in most of our societies to prepare their wills so that when they transit to heaven, the people that remain at home don't get deprived of the resources in their homes and in terms of ownership of assets. And then the other area that we have intervened in is orphans and vulnerable persons. We have had different initiatives that support children and those that support out of school youth, young persons, and then initiatives that support other vulnerable persons like widows in our different communities. Number 6 is environment conservation. So we have had some projects in some pastorates that have supported to conserve environment. Number 7 is peace building and trauma healing. So in what we do in some of the pastorates, there are initiatives that are geared towards creating harmony. We have had instances of people killing each other. Somebody dies mysteriously and the relatives, if it is a lady, the relatives come to retaliate, kill somebody or some people in that clan or in that village. Or we have had communities in Karamoja that raid one another. And then we have had communities that have gone through traumatic incidences. So as a church, we have been able to intervene in such communities to cause peace and then to bring healing to those that are traumatized. Number 8, we have had initiatives on WASH. That's water, hygiene, and sanitation. So we have done and we are continuing to do a number of interventions that are geared towards promotion of personal hygiene, good sanitation, access to clean water, repair of boreholes, sinking or drilling of new boreholes, and other initiatives that are geared towards ensuring access to clean water, good hygiene, and sanitation in our communities. Number 9, we have had initiatives on health and HIV/AIDS. And last but not the least, number 10, education. So we have had in different pastorate support that has come in to support children access education, access scholastic materials, including training in skills. The funding in the different pastorates and then the locations in those various pastorates where we have either operated or where we are currently operating. Like I said, my presentation looks at some of the trends from 1994 up to 2024. So what I'll give here indicates pastorates that as a church, we have managed to have initiatives in the communities from the time we started. And then I will highlight those where we are still continuing with those initiatives or some of those initiatives, and then those where we have not been able to sustain those initiatives. And out of our 24 pastorates plus 1 evangelical area, out of our 25 geographical locations or jurisdictions that we have in PAG in Uganda, those that will not be mentioned are those that we have not been able to reach out to, specifically with initiatives under Social Development Services Department. The first 4 that I have here from 1994 or 1990s One is Central Teso Pastorate with their office in Soroti. We have had initiatives in these first four right from the time we started up to today. The second one is South Teso Pastorate. Central Teso Pastorate covers Soroti and Serere district. Central Teso Pastorate. And then South Teso Pastorate covers Kumi, Serere, Kumi, Ngora, and Bukedia. So South Teso Pastorate, we have been there since that time up to now. The third one is North Teso Pastorate in the districts of Katakwi, Amuria, and Kaplebiong. And then the fourth one is West Teso Pastorate in the districts of Kabramaido and Kalaki. The other lot, the second two places, pastorates that followed the first four, where we managed to start SDS work. And that's Karamoja Pastorate with the office initially in Moroto and right now in Kotido, main office. Some of us know the historical perspective that while in Moroto, the name was PAG Kidep. And now in Kotido, the name is PAG Karamoja SDS. PAG SDS Karamoja with the office based in Kotido. The second one, so that one started in early 2000. So the other office that started in early 2000 is Kigezi Ankoli Pastorate with the office based in Kabale. So from the time we started in early 2000 in Karamoja and Kigezi Ankoli, we have been there up to date. The other location is Arua. Like I said, it's Arua Evangelical Area, where we started in 2014, and we've been there for 10 years up to today. So these other categories that I'm going to mention are pastorates where we managed to start work or get funding for in around 2000. But along the way, we were not able to sustain the work there up to today. One is West Nile Pastorate with the offices in Nebi. Two is West Lango Pastorate with the office in Apache. Three is West Acholi Pastorate with the office in Gulu. And North Bukedi Pastorate with the office in Palisa. And finally, South Bukedi Pastorate with the office in Tororo. Those offices had staff, had assets, some of which are currently accessible and some of which perhaps may not be currently accessible due to the gap in funding, whereby we couldn't sustain the staff in those offices. So the rest of the pastorates, like I said, we could be having interventions there that are supported in the community, like those supported by Compassion International, Pulse Mission, and others, but without a formal SDS structure. Currently, like I mentioned, in those 8 pastorates, including the national office, we have the total number of personnel. The staff that are in those offices are 53, 32 male and 21 females. Out of the 53, 46 are on payroll and 7 are on volunteer position. I will not give the details of the community-based facilitators, some of whom are also paid. Of our community-based facilitators, 42 are paid fully, but a number that is not paid monthly stipend is more than 100. I have not given that summary. In those pastorates that I've mentioned, we have networks and collaborations. People that we collaborate with or network with, but necessarily they do not give us money. They don't give us direct funding. An example is Uganda Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services, UFAS. We have Food and Agriculture Organization. We have District NGO Fora. We have HIV/AIDS networks that our SDS offices partner with. We have the District Farmers Fora. We have the district local governments. The examples, typical district local governments that have supported us, Arua, worked with us in Rhino Camp Refugee Settlement to give us seedlings and the field facilitation for planting of seedlings in the refugee settlement. That was in 2014. And then this year, Kasese District Local Government was able to give assorted seeds to SDS department in Kasese in order to give out, because we merged in the district as the top organization, top NGO in the district that was reaching out to farmers in the community this year. Challenges and recommendations. There was a slide I prepared for the current funding partners that we have. But unfortunately, I don't know, because of my presentation, because it's online, so our IT person is here, but because I can't see that slide for... Okay, so let me read it from you, because if I project it, it doesn't display, but if I remove the presentation mode, it displays. The partners that are currently supporting us, or that have supported us right from 1994 up to date. So I'm going to give a list of them. And I'll begin with those that started with us from that time and are with us up to now. But I'll also mention those others that started with us, and along the way, the funding couldn't be sustained, either because of the project timelines and targets, or because of some issues that came along the way, and we had to lose them. Either we were not comfortable with them, or there are certain things that they didn't like about how we were responding in the different pastorates. One is World Renew. World Renew from 1994 started with us with a long name of CRWRC, Christian Reformed World Relief Committee. It's a development arm of the Christian Reformed Church in Canada and the US. They're among the partners that started with us, and they have worked along with us since that in the early 1990s up to today. The second one is Teso Development Trust. Teso Development Trust has been there since that time up to now. Those are the top two partners that have supported us from the beginning up to now. The third one that worked with us a long journey until recently in the past is Tiafan UK. So Tiafan UK was with us, supported us. For most of us, we know the program that we had, Participatory Evaluation Process, PEP. A number of us here passed through, either participated in it or were able to facilitate activities in PEP program in our churches and our communities with the support from Tiafan UK. But that ended around the time of COVID. The other one is Tia Netherlands, almost the same duration. They started in early, the rest of this started in early 2000 and worked with us until last year. So this year, they have not been with us this year. And the other one is TIA Australia. I take you back to those that worked with us from early up to now. We have emergency relief and development overseas. It's a development arm of the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada. It's among those that started with us in early 2000 and are there with us up to now. And with the work with ERDO, we have the other partner from Canada called Canadian Food Grains Bank, which is a consortium of 15 Christian-based organizations and the government of Canada. These Christian-based organizations pull money and the government of Canada co-funds, and then they send that money out to implement different projects in Africa and other continents. The other one that we got along the way, the other two that we got along the way and are with us up to now is the aid support organizations, TASO and Compassion International. So in summary, the 6 partners that are giving us funds is TDT, that is TESO Development Trust, World Renew, ERDO, CFGB, TASO, and Compassion International. So the others that started, that we got along the way and ended, include the Japan Embassy, Wood and Dad, Save the Children, ECO, which is now called Code Aid, Baylor, Uganda, and the AIDS Information Center, AIC. AIC, we had a partnership with them the other year and this year, early this year, but they ended their partnership in PAG West Test of Pastorate because in the communities that we were serving with the support from AIC, there were high incidences of HIV prevalence. But in the latest funding that AIC worked with us, they did 3 consecutive community outreaches to do HIV testing. And in those 3 consecutive outreaches, there was no single new HIV infection. And key among the key communities are the landing areas. Among the top landing sites, fish landing sites in Cabramaido. For most of us who come from the landing sites, we know there's a lot of reckless behavior and high cases of prevalence of HIV. So due to lack of new HIV infection, new cases, it was harmoniously agreed with AIC that there was no more need to continue to receive that funding in those communities, but allow AIC to go to another area to respond and save lives in those. So those are some of the testimonies that we have of how we parted with these partners. There are also other bad testimonies that I don't want to spoil your mood since we're coming to lunchtime on how we parted with some of them. And Papa, I think, hinted on some and Bishop Joel, that we have cases of where we mismanage finances at the pastorates. And sad among them is that maybe what I didn't hear come out is that most of those partners that left us because we did not spend their money well, it was the national office that had to pay that money. So I just wanted to emphasize that to our pastorates where we're having funding or where we hope to have funding to implement, just like Bishop Joel emphasized, that the people that we have, those that we recruit, and also the leadership within the church that we entrust with those positions. Let us be very diligent in handling those resources that God has entrusted to us. And when the national office gives guidance, usually it is rejected, it is doubted, it is blamed. But when finally it comes to parting, the partner down there will look at the national office, and the national office has to pay that money up to the dot. Among the recent cases that we have had is in much as we didn't part and we have not parted is with the World Renew, where the national office is refunding money that was not accounted in the last financial year. World Renew is there continuing with us, but they're saying, as we continue, first refund this. And the misuse came from the team that we have recruited. So it gives you a picture of the many partners that we have had as PAG in working with us the journey to reach out and transform lives, save lives in the communities. But those that have continued to be with us and those that we have failed to continue to be with us, and some of the reasons I've highlighted. So finally, I share some of the challenges and recommendations. One, we have limited coverage due to limited funding. So when you compute, we are active in 8 pastorates, and of those 8 pastorates, 2 pastorates don't have much work right now. That is South Teso Pastorate and West Teso Pastorate. And that's where we are having the highest number of volunteer staff. The rest of the other 6 are pastorates that we have fully funded projects and all staff being on the payroll. So looking at only those 8 out of 25, it's just a third of our target. And it's due to the shortage in the resource envelope. And the recommendation that we're proposing here, just like it has been said, it started with a Mission Sunday. We can also have Social Development Sunday or month, where we put together, encourage our people to contribute. So most of the partners that I've mentioned are Christian partners, and how they get that money from their countries, Canada, US, UK, is through the contributions that come from the individual members of the church. And here we're saying it can start with just one Sunday, 1 month. And other churches like Church of Uganda and the Catholic Church already have such opportunities, and they're doing well. The other option that we have had in the discussion for the last 10 years is having a percentage of monthly remittance. And we were proposing that 1%. But it has been under discussion for the last 10 years. What we do, and we're all encouraged to do, is to identify potential funders and write proposals to them. We're continuing to do that. What other churches also do is, from the institutions that we have, much as Papa hinted on it, that some of the challenge we have with our schools, we open them as IGS, but in some of those other churches, like Church of Uganda, Catholic Church, every church has a contribution which is transmitted to the diocese and transmitted to the national office to cater for development initiatives. So in all these Christian-founded schools, there is a Ndobolo, there is a bit of development fee, which is channeled to the founding body of the institution. And if we can do that from our training colleges, from our schools, health facilities, then that can be part of the pool to support the work in SDS. We can have strengthen our social media engagement to improve the visibility in SDS department and PAG generally, and attract more opportunities for partnerships. So if our PAG website is active, if our WhatsApp platform is active, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, different social media platforms. If we're active in those platforms, there are people of goodwill that can identify with us. Being active means we identify the stories of transformation, we publicize what we're doing, and then we raise the needs in those different communities. We shall have people that will be touched with those stories out of our website and social media handles, and we can easily be able to tap into such persons of goodwill who can support us. The second challenge is the perception that SDS is an income-generating activity for the pastorate. So in some of these pastorates, how the work started, like I said, perhaps it had a basis for relief, which relief did not only target the communities, perhaps it also targeted the leaders. So when now funding perhaps increased, staff came in, there is still that mind in some of the pastorates that perhaps the money there can be used directly to support the leadership, support the church members, and finance some of the projects in the pastorate or in the churches. And part of that has contributed to gaps in the different project areas. But we are recommending that there can be mindset change through trainings. Train our leaders and our church members on entrepreneurship and financial literacy, so that we can be able to get empowered to also empower others through SDS department. As staff in SDS department, recently we had a training on financial literacy, farming as a family business, entrepreneurship. And this training were the different facilitators, 3 facilitators, 2 of whom were from Enterprise Uganda. And the staff that we had and the leaders that were able to attend the 5 days of training here in Miga the last month appreciate greatly that we can become millionaires and billionaires in 4 years, individually in our families, and gives us tips on how to become a better person in the office, in your business, in farming. And once we have such trainings for all of us and all our church members, then we believe that we shall have more capacity to support the work and to support the needs, not only amongst us, but also in our communities here and outside Uganda. 3, limited synergy and capacity due to multiple structures for implementing social development work. In the introduction, we had about project directors that are among our guests today attending this gathering for the first time. They represent a fraction of the 14 pastorates that have work supported by Compassion International. And this work is not only on child sponsorship, but Compassion International has also extended, diversified in their funding to our pastorates. And there are currently a number of projects, community development projects, women empowerment projects that are being supported by Compassion. But out of the 14 pastorates where we are having project activities supported by Compassion International, I think only 4 have SDS departments. That's West Teso, North Teso, Central Teso, South Teso, and Karamoja, 5 pastorates. But in those 5 pastorates, there are only 2 pastorates that are currently having a bit of uniformity, a bit of synergy between SDS department and those CYDCs. And the testimonies that I want to share here is Karamoja and North Teso pastorates. In Karamoja and North Teso pastorates, the pastorate development committees, that is a structure in SDS department, are the ones that are helping the pastorate leadership to run, to oversee the affairs of the CYDCs. And I want to testify to you and affirm that we are having great success as a result of that synergy. I want to recognize Bishop Robert Lupot, stand up, and Bishop Odukatum Robert. So maybe because of the names of Robert, those 2 bishops have championed the synergy between SDS department and compassion-assisted projects. And how I pray that the rest of the other 3 pastorates, that is South Teso, Central Teso, and West Teso, bore relief from those 2 pastorates. And now the other 10 pastorates where we don't have SDS, formal SDS structure, the manager, the staff in SDS department, and then the pastorate development committee that oversees the development work in the pastorate. For those 10 pastorates, the recommendation is that we work together to ensure that we can identify one PDC, one PD, project director, who will act as our link person, our focal person in the pastorate. Since it's already having resources in the CYDC, the challenge is that perhaps maybe that focal CYDC project director may be distant from the pastorate. But that focal project director among the project directors in those pastorates, because in most of those pastorates, these other 9 pastorates, we have more than one CYDC. And in the structure, we don't have the coordination for those CYDCs. You find if there is fire in this CYDC, the bishop runs there, the pastoral secretary runs there, the general secretary from the national office runs there. But within the pastorate, we don't have a team. So I pray that we start by creating pastorate development committees in those pastorates that will help the pastorate executive to oversee the affairs of those CYDCs. And we're also having other projects that are supported by Volks Mission. We have children's sponsorship and other initiatives that are supported by Volks Mission. And then also we have children that are supported by Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, through the national office. When we put all this together, it's a lot of work that we're doing. But you find there is no uniform structure that consolidates the reports from all these pastorates. Like for me, the national coordinator, I only know of the 14 pastorates that have a compassion-assisted projects. But I've only interacted with those 5 that I've mentioned. And I've had close contact with the PDs of North Teso Pastorate. I've also had opportunity to attend annual leadership summit for the pastorate in Karamoja, where I interacted with all the staff in the different CYDCs in Karamoja. But for the rest, I don't have any contact. When it comes to audit, if we are to consolidate the audit reports for the projects that I've mentioned in the 8 pastorates in SDS, then get the audit reports from the 14 pastorates with the funding from Compassion, and then get the audit report for the work that we do through Volks Mission in Lango and in West Nile, and then the children that we support from with assistance from Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada. That is all. If we consolidate that as our SDS financial report, audit report, it would give us the credibility, the capacity, the expertise and experience that would qualify us to win even funding from UN organizations. But because we are doing it separately and those reports are there, no copies to the national office, we don't have the opportunity to show potential partners that we have capacity in PAG. Second last, limited publicity of our work. Like I hinted before, so we need to revitalize our PAG website. We need to create and revitalize our PAG social media handles. We have to engage our media houses in our different pastorates. Like Papa said, we are doing a lot of work, but we do it behind the scenes. People do not know what we are doing. Recently, in partnership with the Teso Development Trust and World Renew, we were able to take the presiding bishop and the general secretary to different locations in Teso, and we engage different media houses, NTV, UBC, NBS, and different local radio stations. A number of you saw from the news, from the social media platforms. I had calls from even Canada of people acknowledging what we are doing, and yet we did that for only 2 weeks. How about if we take these people to all those 14 pastorates to visit those projects and then publicize what is happening there? We can be able to track funding. Lastly, lack of discipleship strategy for supporting children in community development. We have a lot of our greatest funding now in PAG is funding for programs that support children from Compassion, from Volks Mission, from POSC. That money put together is greater than the money that we are having in the 8 pastorates with formal structures. But all these children that we are reaching out with all this money, as PAG, we don't have a strategy for discipleship. How to take through those child caregivers, those teachers, the matrons that are handling our children. And that is creating a gap. I also want to add, which is not a separate, which would have been a separate point. Even the staff that we have, the staff and the community volunteers that we have in SDS department, our onboarding, our orientation for them has not been good. To the level that we have staff Some of them come from other churches, not PAG. But when they come, we have not been paying attention to disciple them, to take them through our policies, take them through our code of conduct, and along the way, it has been part of even challenges that led to us parting ways with our partners. With those few words, may God bless us all.
Don't eat the money. I know on your own hand you don't have cash, but God is testing you from your poor pocket, and He puts into your pocket money that does not belong to you. From your poor pocket, God puts money to your pocket which does not belong to you. It's up to you to be faithful to God, who saw you in the poverty and yet blessed you for others. I gave you the Rockefeller situation in the morning. How did it change? What brought life to him? From 48 to 98 years. It was the generosity and the faithfulness of managing the resources that God put in his hands for others, not for him. Until we recognize that these blessings that come don't come for promoting Simon Peter. Up to this day, I don't have a car of my own. I don't even have a bicycle of my own. I was teasing my guys here that the day I leave, I might call somebody, Kakise, say, please pass by my place and pick my things. I'm going home. I don't. Why? Because every resource that God has given us, we focus it for the local people, for the local church. And we want to show you that you get it. Any engagement that we have, we get it for you. We will talk about many of these things in the long run, because we are working, we are having lots of issues. You've heard Sheshmond tell you, even now, we have to lobby and pay back some money from what to World Renew. The money that has been misplaced or misused. We'll pay it. Compassion will be talking to us tomorrow. We have 89 million to pay back to Compassion because we have misused it. 89 million. I want to say these things so you know, when we talk to you, we are pain in our hearts. But because you are our children, we are going to be struggling. Because when you misuse the money, which serves 500 children, then there's a problem. And we have to pay it. And you look at it and say, what does the executive do? Sad to say that we pay your unfaithfulness back, and that money goes this way to do it. So when we look at our social work, ours is to portray a picture that we are a church that cares for the poor. The hospitality of the church is critical. And so we want to be faithful to those people that God has given us, starting with children, widows, widowers, and the poor. The other day I was blessed to be in a conference where we brought a speaker. I hope I could repeat his message. But he gave us clear picture from the three words that make the heart of God. Righteousness, justice, mercy and justice. That's what makes God's heart. And we want to be that church, righteous, full of mercy, but having justice. And that's why the children of Israel were told, when you are harvesting, don't harvest everything, leave things at the corner of every home. And those were directly given to the sojourners, the poor, and those who did not have land. It was a deep thing for me when I was seated there. Then I understood the reason of land. And God has blessed us and given us all of these things. It's the first wealth you have at hand is land. But it's not for you. That's why God talks about that land resting every year and every 7 years and every 50 years. The land resorted back to the owners. The law of justice from God's perspective. So the things we are dealing with here are so great. And the widows, the orphans, and the poor have been God's companions from day one. And God will not abandon them until they are at good peace. And he looks after those from those who rent his land. All of us, including government, we rent God's land. Government doesn't have land. You also don't have land. It belongs to God. And it's for the poor, for the widow, and for the orphan. And if you cheat the money given to an orphan, then you have a big problem. Or to the widow. So let's work in this way. Our dream for the next many years is to ensure that we as PAG, from every local church, will take care of those people. But we will also put our funds together. If we understand missions, missions is the house of everything. It's the house of the poor. It's the house of missions. It's the house of the lost, but also the house of the poor. It's also the house of the widows. It's the house of the orphan. That mission thing. If you knew about it like that, you would have given 100,000, 200,000, 300 million. Because that's where you invest. And if you put your money in missions, then all these sections that we take care of will be taken care of. Now we cannot, because we've never understood it. So we want to be a church with God here on earth. You know, we're not a church in the community. No, we don't want to be a church in the community. We don't want even to be a church for the community. We want to be a church with the community. That's our dream. And when we get into that, we care for everyone because they're with us. That's why Jesus came as Emmanuel, to be with us. Not just to be a God in heaven, commanding us from the throne and asking us to do the impossible or the possible. No, he came down here and suffered like we suffer. He went hungry like we hunger. He knew not to have, and he knew how to have. With us. And that's what PAG should be. From our social perspective, we are saying we are a church with the community. We want to be there. And that's why we want to provide that clean water, provide this, do everything that we can. Even cleaning those other spring wells. Wherever we can. It's not just about boring them. It's by even cleaning the ones that are there. And the Lord will do that greatly for all of us. Let's give a big hand clap to those who have given us those presentations. One of our national directors just arrived a few hours ago, and she's here. Reverend Christine, please, would you stand? Yeah. Hey, my friend, that is your boss. You clap properly. Hey! You know, when we PAG, we don't use those words. We try to be brothers and sisters. But one morning it's good to wake you up and say, that's your boss. So don't just take them for saying, I know them. So we thank you. Thanks very much, Reverend Christine, for coming and being with us in this particular thing. They come to sit with us, to listen to what's going on, so they can discern what the year looks like. And work together with us to plan that year and streamline those things.